The end of the show and tell webinar today. And thank you all for joining us. The URL is for this project is iabtechlab.com/OMSDK. All the information is always available there. We are going to also post the recordings of this webinar in before end of this week. We'll have the presentation, we'll have the webinar, we'll have the Q&A, everything posted there for you to see, as well as the videos of the demo that Alex showed. We'll have those separately posted for developers to go and take a look at it. Regarding the yes, so if you have any issues with downloading or with integrating, we have the channel for support right now is by email. It's simple email ID omsdksupport@iabtechlab.com. You can always email us with any questions. We try to answer them within 24 to 72 hours. And as the downloads and the integrations ramp up and scale up, we will open up other channels like forums, etc. So right now in the working group, you can participate in the working group. This working group does require a specific participation agreement created mainly to protect the IP contributions made by all the commit group members and their teams. But once you have access, you're part of the group, you have access to a Slack channel, which is very active and very vibrant and responding. Plus you get access to some other resources as being part of the working group. So yeah, do contact us. You can send it to, you can send a request to me, Shelly at iabtechlab.com or omsdksupport@iabtechlab.com for membership into the group, as well as any other support questions you may have. We still have time for some questions. Meena, are there any questions that we can address?
Yes, so our first question is, how does the lack of support for collection of advertiser ID affect the use of macros for such ad ID collection in tags?
This is better answered by measurement providers. So Joe, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, nothing's preventing a macro from being populated to pass certain signals. I think that it's really up to the measurement provider to decide whether or not they support a given macro being populated, and that's something you should work out with your measurement provider that you're partnering with.
Okay.
Our next question is, will OMSDK reduce some of the discrepancies between buy-side and sell-side measurement, given both sides are measuring through the SDK?
Kevin, do you want to answer? You want to take that?
Sorry. Sure. So as all the measurement vendors will be using the same Open Measurement SDK for the collection of viewability signals, the expectation is that these discrepancies between the buy-side and sell-side measurement would be reduced.
Our next question is it only the commit group that will have access to the actual source code?
The source code is available to all the members of the working group who signed the participation agreement. Commit group does, as per the agreement, reserve the right to restrict action of certain portions of code if they feel that that is necessary for examples like fraud detection or IVT related code that we may not want to expose to the general industry or public at large.
Are other viewability vendors like Integral Ad Science and Double Verify already partnered with the SDK?
Yeah, sure. Double Verify. Sar did present today. Sar, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, we're ready to collect measurement.
Same here with IAS. We're supporting actual certifications at this point right now.
Michael, you want to add about Moat?
Yep, same for us.
And a follow-up question to that is, do we need individual SDK agreements with vendors such as Moat, IAS, and Double Verify separately?
Does anyone want to take that question from the vendors?
Quick clarification, when you mean SDK agreements, do you mean a certification process?
No, I
I'm
think
not sure.
I think they're asking whether, I don't know, Meena, do you have access to ask the question? If they can ask, we can give them.
I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, guys.
I assume it's talking about the testing and certification process, at which point the recommendation would be to go through the IAB Tech Lab verification, which should function for any of the vendors. Going through individual testing via each vendor is an option, just not the recommended. As far as contractual agreements, I assume that's not what it's talking about, but that would be something where that would be a vendor-to-vendor point to take up.
So in that case, if you're receiving measurement from IAS and you had a relationship to receive, say, a UI login and measurement of the sort, there would be a separate agreement for that. But just for us to certify you, there would not be a required agreement.
Yeah, so whoever asked this question, like if this doesn't answer, please feel free to send more detailed question and we can get the answers later on.
Our next question is, what is the cost associated with implementing the OM SDK in our apps? Also, what contracts are involved?
So there is no cost to implement the OM SDK. It's like we showed you, you can just log into the portal, sign up for the portal. That's all free, and you can generate your build and get the SDK. There are no contracts involved, but the SDK does come with a license. So we encourage that you read the license and follow the terms and conditions of the OM license that comes with the SDK. Yep, there are no costs involved. The only cost is for the compliance service, that is the certification, and that is voluntary.
Can OM SDK capture device ID and pass it in a click? This would be useful for app-to-app conversion attribution.
Like we said in the presentation, at this stage, we're not capturing any IDs. The focus of the first release is to capture the viewability, and we are capturing all of that, the impression, the viewable geometry for a particular campaign. Once we have, it's part of the roadmap. We haven't yet prioritized it, but yeah. So wait for our prioritized roadmap to be published later in Q2. And
it's also important to note on that particular question that today the focus is in, but that's certainly something that we can review.
Yep.
Can we have multiple ad verification vendors in the VAS to enable multiple partners?
Sar, do you want to address that?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, in the same VAS, you may have multiple verification node, and in kind of VAS that are wrapping other VAS, you may see additional ones as well. And all of them should be executed.
Publishers are concerned about the size of the SDK. Please confirm the size.
Does anyone want to take this? I did do the size calculation earlier today, but I wasn't sure. So I think it's Mike. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Have those sizes there?
Yeah. So for Android, it's 59 KB, and for iOS is 19.4 MB.
Okay, and one last question is JS frequently updated in every 2-week sprint? If yes, then that means the app needs to be updated and pushed on store every 2 weeks. Please confirm.
Alex, do you want to address that?
It's not necessary to upgrade the SDK every 2 weeks. However, we encourage you to frequently update the JS service.
Do we have time for one more, or?
Let me add a little bit to that.
Sure.
So So the OMSDK, we are following like a semantic versioning with major version dot minor fixes. And as per our current guidance that we are following, all the releases within a particular major version, like 1.x, would be backward compatible. So you don't have to necessarily upgrade every 2 weeks or every now and then. And whenever we release a significant functionality that needs to be, that you should be aware of to upgrade, we will make sure that we publicize it. But otherwise, with every release, you can always see the change log and know exactly what functionality is going in into that particular release. And then the major releases, like when we go from 1.x to 2.x, may have a breaking change or have big functionality packaged into it. So that's something that you should look out for, which we are planning on. Usually would be like once a year, maybe twice a year sometimes. So that's the guidance on when to upgrade. I think one last question.
Yeah. Sure. How to participate to be a verification provider, and what is the process?
Well, that's a great question. We from OM SDK, like we are providing the software, so we are not providing any guidance on how you become a verification provider or you become a publisher or anything. That's up to you how you want to use it. The software is available, but we are not going to provide any guidance on how you start a new business or get into a new business.
Looks like we have a quick correction from Jay in the Slack channel that the iOS SDK does not add a full 19 megabytes to the app.
Okay.
That the image size is closer to 100 kilobytes.
Oh, the final compile size?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, voice was cut. Yeah, Jay also mentioned this is like the SDK standalone size is 19. Once it goes into the app and gets as an IPA at the binary, then the size is 100 KB or less.
Okay. That's great information.
Confirm.
Thanks for the update.
Once you share this.
We'll post the questions as a separate FAQ, listed FAQ, so we'll have the right answers in that for that size. Okay. Well, thank you everyone once again. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to all of you downloading the SDK and integrating the OM SDK in your apps and Ads SDKs. Thanks again.
Thank you.